Hi, I'm Phil Dispenza, and this is Collecting, Investing, or Somewhere in Between. This is going to be part three of the Golden Age. Going to conclude it today. I made some notes uh, on the items I haven't covered. Wanted to clarify a couple of things, but my allergies are kicking up today, so you might hear me sniffing and clearing my throat. I got my water, but I don't want this to be too long, so I have a few examples, not too many, as I mentioned in the beginning. I don't own that many Golden Age books, but I try to at least show one. Um, anyway, so the one thing I wanted to clarify, okay, first of all, there was one artist that does some great art that I failed to mention, I believe, was Matt Baker. And he's all over the place with genres. He did a lot of romance, and he did a lot of westerns. So you'll see Matt Baker cover, or Matt Baker cover in art uh, when you see listed in the Overstreet and stuff. So check him out. Very realistic. His drawings, his people, they look like people. They're not cartoony or anything. They're very detailed lines on their faces and stuff. The other thing I wanted to clarify is the pages. As I mentioned about incomplete, especially with the Golden Age, you're missing pages and stuff. So a lot of the Golden Age, for 10 cents, you would get, especially in the beginning, you would get 16 wraps, literally 64 pages of comic. And then slowly, you cut back on the war, the use of paper and stuff. They started making like 16, what they call a 1612, 16 pages in the front, then you hit the middle staple, and then 12 pages in the back. And a lot of times the extra 4 pages were glued. And then eventually they just made the paper a little longer so they could staple it, and you'll see a little edge on the other side of the wrap. So you got to be careful because you might think it's been glued. Some things might have been removed or something. So you have to be familiar with how many pages are in there. Certain books, I believe, quality with some Plastic Mans and maybe Fawcett, at one point had 14 wraps, 14. So you might think, oh, I'm missing 2 wraps or something. No, they actually came out with 14. You also had your 12 that became standard. Again, 12 wraps. DC at one point, not too sure about others, but early 50s went to 10 wraps. And then there are a few 12/8s, I believe, 20 pages. Same thing. I don't remember if they're just glued or if they made the paper a little longer and it just got stapled, but I believe there's 12/8s and then 8/8. So make sure you go on, I know comics.org, again, that's an information site. It's great. Go on, and a lot of times they'll have how many pages. They include the covers. So if it's an 8 wrap, it should be 32 pages. It'll say 36 pages because it includes the cover, front and back, front and back, front and back, front and back, back. So it'd say 36 pages. So let's move on. Might as well cover some of the comics that I don't have examples of. I'm turning my card around. It's on both sides. I have a lot of things written. Science fiction, sci-fi, not including science comics, because there's actually a science comics, but things that, again, this is like a new concept back in the day, 1950s. You have all this science fiction coming out and things. And there was some earlier. So you had, Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and stuff prior to this, but the space race was coming. They started, exploring. First, they were sending up just space capsules and unmanned, and with the monkey or whatever, and then eventually in the 60s. But science fiction with aliens and stuff became a big thing, and they put out a lot of comics. And again, there's a lot of companies out there jumping on the bandwagon. Everybody and their grandmother was putting out stuff. There's so much out there. And again, is it feasible to collect? As a collector, you can buy lower grade copies. Unless you have money, it is tough. You'll spend $200 on a book. That could be somebody's salary, or you buy like 3 books in a week or something. That's their salary. So again, you investigate, look and see what might be out there that you might like. Like I mentioned about that Gerber photo journal guide. But if you hear of a title, go through the Overstreet, look through titles. If the title sounds good, investigate, look online. And sci-fi was popular. You'll see a lot of it out there. But again, look at the census on what's been graded. But anyway, so sci-fi, what do I have here? Well, it's Atomic Age. So anything that I mentioned with the genre, atom bomb explosions, things like that, it's all new. The ECs, I didn't dig them out, the reprints again, like I did with the horror. But you had like weird science fantasy, weird fantasy, which covered the science fiction stuff. A couple of titles, anything the word space adventures and stuff, you're going to say science fiction. Planet Comics, that was a lot of, issues of Planet Comics. Probably one of the more popular titles. So sci-fi, just, you love science fiction. That's all brand new back then for the most part. And again, 1940s, you're not going to see too much. It was mostly in the 50s. That's when the boom hit. Let's see, what else am I going to put right now? Romance. I'm going to jump into romance. I might just tie it in with teens. Sometimes I put the romance there. If you look at the census and the grades, when you go to look at grades, how many copies were graded, there are a lot of holes. And I mean, you might have a title, and I don't think I wrote down any titles, but just a few companies that actually did romance. Atlas had a ton of it. I don't know how many, 6, 7, 8 different titles at least. Our Love Story or whatever it is. DC is the other one. Maybe DC had the Our Love Story, but Lev Gleason also had several titles. And I've been grading a lot of romance lately, and from the 40s through the 70s, pretty much. And again, when I hit Bronze Age, I'll discuss whether or not anything's feasible to buy as an investment. But romance right now is hot. Quality. Did I mention quality? Lev Gleason and quality. I don't know if Charlton had romance in a golden age. They might just have jumped on into silver. But if they did, it probably not too many titles at the time. So you had, I just threw in, and this could be sort of like the teens, and that's why I'm going to get to the teens too. And Millie the model, Nellie the nurse, Tessie the typist, this is all like Atlas. Susie, it was from Archie. Katie Keene, which I actually wrote in the teens. And a lot of things, those are geared towards girls. They would have like the paper dolls. You'd have the cutouts and stuff. So on the girl titles, you have to look, if you're buying them, I would suggest going through the book. Make sure that all the pages are there. Make sure none of the paper dolls were cut out, because more likely than not, things will be incomplete. But romance right now, highest investment. I mean, I'd throw it up there. Buy it now. 30 years from now, it is again. Who wants romance comics? These kids probably don't. So I would probably, if you buy this stuff, I'd flip it within the next 10 to 15 years. It's a short term, what I call short term. To me, long term is going to be 30 years plus. So I'd say buy it, grade it. I'd get pretty much anything graded. And if you're not grading and you're selling it raw, look to see what's available on eBay, because you might be the only copy. I was doing searches trying to find, even like just in a title, there could be 50 issues in the title, and then you do a search on eBay and you'll come up with 22 or something like that total of any of the issues. Not even, so you won't even see certain issues being offered. So my suggestion, and I've done this already in the past, sell for overguide. A lot of times these dealers will advertise in the overstreet paying guide or more. They'll actually say paying 125% or something. So if they're paying over guide, they're getting much more. I got to drink water. My allergies are killing me. Anyway, so romance, highest priority for investing at this time. But don't sit on them for too long. I turned it over because I want to still cover some other stuff I don't have examples of. Jungle. There's lots of jungle comics out there. Anything with the word jungle in a title is logical. Jungle comics or jungle adventures or whatever it is. But I picked out specific characters that might be one recognizable, because jungle, if you think about it, again, how many kids right now, teenagers, young adults, care about jungle comics, anything related to the jungle? I mean, if it was sort of like an Indiana Jones type of thing, where you're an explorer, adventurer, treasure seeker or something, that's different. But I'm talking about Tarzan. Tarzan's been around a long time, well over 100 years, the character himself, in pulps and things and newspaper strips. But Tarzan's probably one of the few that probably has staying power. Dark Horse had him for a while. I don't know who has him now. I had bought some Dark Horse Tarzans in the 90s and stuff, and he's been in everything from DC to Marvel. So he's all over the place. I wrote down Rima the Jungle Girl. I believe it was DC, and again, in the Bronze Age or something, had printed. But she was like the first jungle girl next to Tarzan. I think her first mention, it was in a book. It was like 1914 or something. So Rima, the name probably will stick with you. And it's weird because like a lot of times the girl jungle characters always end the two syllables, and they always end in a vowel. So I have, or even some of the guys too, but you had Lorna Jungle Girl, Tigra, Sheena, which, of course, Tanya Roberts, if you remember, mid-'80s movie, she just passed away last month, in fact, or a month and a half ago. No, it's still January, but sometime in the past month. So, a lot of these things. And there's a guy, Conga. They always have these weird names. Like I said, two syllables ending in a vowel. The one I want to mention is Kazar, because you're familiar with Kazar from Marvel. But Kazar actually was in Marvel Comics #1 is a slightly different character. But, that's, his first appearance. And, of course, Marvel Comics 1. You're not buying it for Kazar. You'd be buying it for Human Torch, Submariner, and stuff. So anyway, I want to move to movies and television. Actually, let me see what I have here. I had a lot of stuff written there. Dell put out, and I wanted to mention Dell because Dell had 4-color comics, and Dell covered a lot of genre. And they did a lot of television. They did a lot of movies. A lot of cartoon characters, funny animals, things like that. But Dell, and I'm going to have, maybe I should pull out this example I was going to put. I'm not doing it yet. Here we go. Because I'm at the movies and television. And this also might be under comedy. It's a little tough because some of these are cross-genre. But movies and television, there are movie comics, motion picture comics. where they actually covered, and a lot of the classics again, books, movies, where it's the actual movie, but things that were seen on television. If you got to remember, television was new for the 50s. So, what I put here is a lot of stuff was released in the early 50s. You'll recognize names. Majority of people will recognize names. And again, kids nowadays, they're in a bubble. They live on their phone. Their thing is Pokemon or something, or whatever, cartoons, SpongeBob. Even SpongeBob might be a little outdated to them, but Scooby-Doo and things. But so things like Howdy Doody I put on there as a thing. Because Howdy Doody has his own comics. Lassie had their own, Lassie the collie dog, their own comics. What else do I have here? Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby probably can be recognized if you tell the kids every time Christmas comes around and you hear White Christmas or something, he's singing for Christmas songs, because they still play them on the radio now. They always have these marathons going, Christmas songs from Thanksgiving through Christmas or something. So if you point out to the kids, hey, that's Bing Crosby and he had his own comic book, is it going to have that much popularity? Probably not. But again, it's just something else. And I was thinking about it. I was looking at a lot of Golden Age the past few weeks, grading a lot of Golden Age. And it was phenomenal at some of the stuff that's out there. Besides like the comic strips and things that they reprinted, it's just like there's so much out there. So if I had time, I'd be reading everything. Not necessarily collecting, not investing, just reading it. And, again, there's a lot of public domain stuff that you could read online for free, tens of thousands of books. So if you have a chance and, a title hits your fancy, take a look at one issue. If you like it, read more. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a little. What else do I have? Ozzie and Harriet. Again, a name that was in the 50s household like crazy, but nobody would know nowadays. I put in here I Love Lucy. That also might go on to comedy, but she's television. And Lucy, they're constantly showing reruns, syndication, whatever, on various channels. The old time TV, FETV is like, but you'll see I Love Lucy and Me TV. I don't know. I still watch it. I still laugh. But are kids going to? So again, I don't think there were that many Lucy comics. Maybe 10 between the 4 colors and the actual issues. Maybe not even that much. But again, it was a household. She was like, I think she was on the first TV Guide, if I believe right. Remember right. So anyway, movies, television, you could just pick anything that was on TV back then in the 50s, or in the movies. But movie comics are, I think, a little less, fewer out there. So I'm going to jump to comedy because, again, this is before my time, but I grew up with this because they kept replaying it on television. So I actually collect a couple of these. I don't have any of the Golden Age. I have maybe silver. I have bronze. Abbott and Costello. Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, I don't have any of their comics. And Bob Hope, The Adventures of Bob Hope. The Jerry Lewis and Bob Hope are DC. And then Laurel and Hardy. If you ever see March of the Wooden Soldiers, they usually played around Thanksgiving every year. And again, they're something that the kids could say, oh, I know those characters. They have comic books. Maybe I'll buy them. So longevity, I don't know. And of course, my favorites, and I have quite a few silver. I don't have any of the Golden Age, and I just love is the Three Stooges, even though there were 6, Three Stooges. So I have one book here. I didn't even know where to categorize this. It's not really teenage thing. It could be television. It could sort of be comedy. And again, it's something I grew up with. They started with the racism thing, and you don't see them that often. I don't even know if they play them on TV, but you can still watch them on, YouTube and things is Little Rascals. I have a few Little Rascals books. I just pulled one out. This might barely be in the golden age. I didn't write the date. It's either 55, 56 or something. I have, like I said, a few. And, Alfalfa, Spanky, Darla, the common characters, But there is our gang comics in the golden age. Sometimes I think they have, like, because they have characters in there that have nothing to do with the Little Rascals, but I don't know if Froggy's in there, or I don't know if Buckwheat would be, because he's later, but who am I thinking of? Farina? I don't know if any of those characters are in there, because I don't have them and I haven't read them, but I've seen them. So there is our gang, Little Rascals, and then there's Little Rascals. I'm going to flip this again, get on the other side, and then have one other thing to discuss on that side. So I covered sci-fi, romance. Let's go with war. World War II, one of the most popular genre at the time, because the war is going on. It's in your face again. And I mentioned this with the atomic ages of genre also last part. World War III. It was when the atom bomb started hitting. There was this fear of another war and annihilation and everything with nuclear bombs. So World War III became a theme. Any type of war comics, you're going to see war, the title in war for this and that. I wrote a lot of titles down. Combat, you'll see that word being used by itself or in conjunction with other words and titles. Wings was a big title back then. Star Spangled War Stories. DC came out, and they had just started the Our Army at War, and was the other, Our Fighting Forces. This is, I believe, pre-Sergeant Rock. He's not until Silver Age. The word battle shows up in the title. So it's battle by itself, battlefront, battle cry. What was the other? Battle report. So there's a lot of titles. All American Men of War. There's another DC. I put a couple of characters from DC, Mademoiselle Marie. I'm thinking she was in the Golden Age. If I'm wrong, she showed up in the Silver Age. But that's one of the first appearances that is very sought after. And then there was a character, sort of like a comedy, but also in the war comics, Canteen Kate. I think she was in her own title at one point, too. I have one war comic from the Golden Age I pulled. I think I had a couple of other ones, but I didn't want to spend too much time. It's called War Front, so you know the word war. This is from December 53. So war, again, is it good investment for longevity? There's always people going into the armed forces. So those people themselves might collect war comics. That's a give or take. So I'm a 50-50 on the war. There's actually every issue of Overstreet now has some kind of market report on the war comics. So it's a little more informative. You can read about it in the Overstreet every year, and I think they update them. So it's possible that there still might be holding interest. I'm going to move on to Western. I got a few. Actually, I have one Western. And as I mentioned, Matt Baker, I had a Matt Baker book, and I have no idea where it is. So I got this one. But we'll start with characters. Most of these people, even real life people, I don't think there's going to be any interest whatsoever. I think Western's been dead for a long time. Why? Because this isn't the old West. Everything's modern. People aren't wearing cowboy hat. Well, they do in Texas, but you don't see it too often. And they're not wearing their little 6-shooters on their gun belt. But people like Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. You know the name now, but the kids, hey, look, it's Roy Rogers. I mean, I never watched really Roy Rogers. The only one that I say that probably might have some staying power, the Lone Ranger, for the fact that even though they tried bringing him back, Disney did with Johnny Depp. I think Johnny Depp was Tonto or something. Very poor. It's like you can't cast a Native American for Tonto. But anyway, the Lone Ranger, still possible. Of course, he had his Silver, his horse, had his own comic book. Yeah, that was the funny thing about Westerns. The horses would have comic books, like Black Fury or something. It's like crazy. The other one that's possible, and it's because Topps kept it alive or brought him back, was Zorro. Um, there's a lot of Zorro stuff from the 50s through up until 90s, I guess, because even Marvel had their Zorro series, I believe, in the 80s. So again, are these characters? Gene Autry, I wrote him. And you got Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone. Again, these are characters or people, actors from that time. I don't think it's going to have staying power. Now, the one I wrote, Hopalong Cassidy, if you listen again, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. 1955, and Bing Crosby sang one version. You hear it. I think maybe Andy Williams sang a different one. But they said, hop along boots and a pistol that shoots. And there you go. Hopalong Cassidy, his cowboy boots, is a gift for whoever the kids' names were. And, if somebody points it out to their kids, hey, that's Hopalong, they're referring to Hopalong Cassidy. He was a Western. But overall, I have no doubt that this is probably going to be a dead genre in 30 years. Totally. I believe probably if you were to buy Westerns now, you can get them discounted half guide or something. But I have one book. In fact, it says Piece Missing, non-story page. For some reason, I don't think this is it's Charles Bureau cover. I put Fair Good. I mean, it's beat up. I don't even know what issue it is. But it's Black Diamond Western. 31. And it's from February of, I might as well show it, February 52. And I think a lot of things, because this is, here, somebody's being hung on the cover. So, again, are they buying it for the Western or, a noose around somebody's neck as the genre? People collect hanging covers. I'm going to go into, I think I have two things left, and then I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. It's almost half an hour, so maybe another 15 minutes. The teens. And again, teen to me, Archie is the big one. Some of these characters are from Archie. I have one in my hand. It's the only one I have. I used to have Betty and Veronica's, any Archie character. You have Jughead, or you have Reggie, Moose, whoever had their own comics sold. There's a ton of Archies. And again, if you look at the census on what's been graded, there are holes. There are holes. I had Golden Age Betty and Veronica. I believe I sold them all over the years. I mentioned, I think my friend Mark found a batch of Golden Age for $15. And there were Tessie the typist and Nellie the nurse and stuff in there from the 40s. And he paid $15 for the box. And that was what was left over. Somebody came and bought the other stuff, probably the superhero stuff. The woman just gave the comic. And they were beat up. I mean, you're looking at 2s and 3s maybe. But that little Lulu was from there that I had showed you last part. So, teens, Archie, I mentioned Katie Keene, any of those characters from the Archie comics, Ginger Snap, what's her name? Not Ginger. Yeah, it is Ginger Snap. Little Iodine, Henry, I had a Henry. In fact, I had a Buzzy too. I didn't pull them out. Anything that you'll see that Archie comes out with it, then all these other companies start creating their own versions, including Marvel. They had their own thing. But I just pulled out one Wilbur. This is from fall of 1946. It's a silly stuff. And, the teens, they never age. But since Archie's still around and you have Riverdale TV show, that has staying power. And the rarity of finding some of these books, again, you think it's out there, but Archie's the one that had printed 1 million copies and stuff. Funny Animal. I'm going to conclude this and then just briefly mention of something else. Funny Animal, I had put part as cartoons, again, crossovers. I'm going to mention some titles. A lot of these are DC's. Dodo and Frog. I can't remember. Nutsy Squirrel. Fox and a Crow. What was the pig? I forgot what the pig's name was. Oh my God, my brain just, I didn't even write them down. I'm really suffering here. Paul Terry's, Terry Comics, most famous Heckle and Jekyll. Somewhere back there, I believe, because it wasn't in my box, I had pulled out the Heckle and Jekylls. I did have a couple of Heckle Jekylls from the 40s. Pogo Possum is another one that you can probably recognize. Felix the Cat, which I have a lot of Felix the Cat. I have no Golden Age Felix the Cat. Most of mine's are reprints. And again, the 90s, they came out a lot of reprints of comic books, which I'll show you some originals of, these characters, the cartoons that, kids grew up with. And you'll recognize. Disney, I don't have any Disney Gold. I think my wife probably has several issues, but wherever her comics are, I have no idea. She has them packed away. So Disney, you got the Ducks, the Carl Barks, of course, great investments. Mickey Mouse, Daisy Duck, or Pluto, and Goofy, and Minnie Mouse. Every character you think about Disney, it's just like, I'm the Funny Animal, but Disney anything. That's why also Dell put out all the Disney stuff, and the longevity of Disney, you can't argue with it. It's always in your face. And even though they create new characters and new movies and things, the classics will always be there. Your Snow White or whatever. A lot of stuff is just it's money. Literally, you're printing money. The thing with Dell's is, and I don't know about the gold, but the silver, you keep finding they have warehouse finds. There's file copies out there, so you got to watch. Because sometimes there are quantities on certain issues, especially the silver. But so I'm going to show you some of the Funny Animals, things that I collect. And I mean, I have quite a few books. I only pulled like one example of each. Bugs Bunny album, 1953. There's tons and tons and tons of this stuff in the golden age things. Actually, let me pull this one. So I have Looney Tunes. Even though Bugs Bunny's on the cover, again, Looney Tunes characters. You have Elmer Fudd. There's Porky Pig in the cover, which I'll show you next. This is from May of 51. This is number 116. So, this went back quite a bit. And I grew up with Bugs Bunny. Bugs Bunny's literally number 2 on my list behind Scooby-Doo. I just love Bugs Bunny. But, you have Yosemite Sam and Foghorn Leghorn. I found the Petunia comic, and I don't even know if it was from the gold or from the silver, but, Petunia Pig had her own comic. This was Porky Pig. This is Dell 4-color 241, Porky Pig, the Mighty Hunter, 1949. And this, actually, I think I had graded higher. I put it as a fine. I think originally I put it as like a VF or something. I might have to look at it again. But this is a pretty decent copy, and it goes for some money. I mean, it's not a fortune. Another one of my favorites, which is on every night on, I think it's Boom, because I don't think it's Cartoon Network, for 2 hours. Every single night, Tom and Jerry. So, kids going to buy this stuff? Probably. And the thing about the Funny Animals is they're not super expensive. Maybe the first appearances, the first issues could be or will be. Again, even in lower grade, it's not that bad compared to the superheroes and things. So it's feasible to collect a good portion of these and not break the bank. Investment wise, again, there is quantity out there. I don't think any of this stuff is scarce because it was printed, and this is stuff that kids probably would have saved. A couple of more Woody Woodpecker, Walter Lantz characters would again hold staying power. Is Chilly Willy part of Walter Lantz? I can't remember Chilly Willy, which one he's under. Always loved Chilly Willy, but Woody Woodpecker, I have quite a few. So between Tom and Jerry, Woody Woodpecker, and Bugs Bunny, I literally have almost probably at least 200 books between the three titles. And again, that's nothing compared to what was printed. I just pulled these out just for the hell of it. This is by Avon. I don't remember what the other one is made, but Peter Rabbit. This is February 53. It says 3 extra sets of staple holes and 1.5 inch spine split. So I gave this a 3.0. And then Red Rabbit, which I have nothing written on Red Rabbit, but I know this is older. So that's with the funny animals. It's out there. A lot of stuff, cartoons you still see on TV. I just wanted to mention finally some foreign books with the gold. I don't have to necessarily leave this for variants, but the Canadian black and whites, a lot of the Canadian books, they're original stories, and some of those characters, and I can't remember what the one character was. You don't see this. I think I've seen 3 copies in the past 5 years. Is the version of Action One. If I see it, I'll know it, but it doesn't come to me right now. But the Canadian black and whites, a lot of times they come in and they're not complete, and it's tough because some of these books, there's so little information out there that we don't know. Is it part of a story? Is it not part of a story? Which page is missing, or which wrap is missing? Is it the centerfold? A lot of times it's centerfold, but you can't just assume that. And since there's so little information, you go to GCD, to comics.org, a lot of times they'll have the title of this story is 8 pages, and then 1 page of letters and 1 page of ads or whatever. And they go into great details. A lot of collectors out there who help, with the knowledge of comic books. But the Canadian black and whites, they're pretty big money because you never find them in high grade. It's like next to impossible. So I wanted to mention the foreign. That's the unique. There's also some reprints, like DC Canadians versions of DC Comics, Simcoe. A lot of times, like if there were 12 wraps, they might be only 8 wraps. They remove the ads and stuff, so the pages are fewer. They always usually say on the back cover, say Tops Comics or something like that. TOPS, not Tops as in baseball card Tops. So that's a sign of knowing whether or not you have a Canadian version. Because again, the Canadian versions look exactly the same as U.S. versions. They're written in English and stuff. Also, like I know on some ECs, it'll say CDL, I believe. Or other books might have CDN somewhere on the cover next to a price. The month might be missing on the cover. So you got to look and make sure you're buying U.S. versions, unless it's, documented. This is a Canadian version when you're purchasing online, because again, usually the Canadian reprints, and sometimes they're not really reprints. They're not even price variants. They were just Canadian versions released at the same time, but they don't sell as high as the, U.S. versions. So you have to watch on that. Ben, I just wanted to mention there are books out there that reprint, even Golden Age, reprint the actual comic book in a different language. And I'm talking about the titles, everything's written in, like, say, Spanish or Mexican. There's Mexican versions out there. I don't know about gold, but definitely in silver and bronze. You see this all the time. There's been a big surge of foreign books. Like I had a couple of Fantastic Fours, and if I find them when I do the Silver Age, from Indonesia, and I just saw them. I saw them in some guy's dollar box. They were beat up. I think there was 2 copies, and I just grabbed them. just because they're, unique, especially here in the States. How did they get here? But you'll have things written in Dutch, a lot of Disney's out there. The Finland, oh my God, my brain's not working again. Anyway, Denmark, the Dutch versions of Disney's. German, sometimes you'll see German. I think I've even seen some Arabic comics for gold. There are Australian variants on some gold, but again, that might be a price variant. UK is a lot. If they have gold, it might be just price variants with the same book. So did I want to cover price variants? It's foreign, so I might as well just throw it in there. So that's probably about it. Again, collect what you want. I always say this every episode. Collect what you want. Invest. Take my advice. Do your research. See what's selling. Don't look at what people are asking. People can ask anything. I keep saying that too. I can ask $1 million for that red rabbit. Doesn't mean it's going to sell for $1 million. See what the prices sell for. And if they're selling under guide, they're probably not a good investment. But if they're selling, high, double guide each time, if you could find it for guide and double your money instantly, instead of holding it. Again, investing is not necessarily sitting on things. You could just invest, buy and flip, just to make some money. Guess for that would probably be lots. I saw some gold last night in lots, the entire Abbott and Costello run or something. And the guy wanted like $600. I don't know what kind of grade it was in. But, again, you buy what you like, invest in what you think might be good for the future, or just to flip temporarily. But, like I said, do your homework. So like, share, tell your friends. I don't have too many views, whatever. I'm not going to stop videos because people aren't going to watch them. Because, again, you might get around to it. They're long. This one's 42 minutes or whatever. So anyway, so I'll see you next time. We're going to start with the Silver Age. All right. I'll talk to you later.